Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. I want to go over something that I really think is going to help you with your essays. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk about some things. So what I want to talk about right now is how to incorporate research. So there's three ways you can do it. You could do a quote, you could do a summary, or you could paraphrase. So what is a quote? A quote is taking the author's exact words, changing nothing, and putting them in quotations. I think most of us know what this means, but if I'm doing research and I see something I like from an author, what I could do is I could just cut out their sentence and I could put it in my essay. I could retype it, cut it, paste it, et cetera, and then put it in quotation to show that I took their words. This is them saying it, but I'm giving them credit by putting quotations on it. That's one way to do it. And another way would be to summarize. So if I summarize my research, it means condensing down the meaning. It's the who capturing the who, what, when, where, why, how. So if I have a lot of information in a research document, but I don't need all of it, or I want to shorten and condense it, then what I could do is I could just put it in my own words. I'm not going to put it in quotations. I'm just going to condense it down. So for example, if I'm summarizing a book, I might summarize a book in 10 pages. If I summarize, if I summarize a page, I might do it in a paragraph. If I summarize a paragraph, I might do it in a sentence. But each time I'm just trying to cut it down to the meaning, the core idea. And regardless if I'm quoting, summarizing, paraphrasing, I would still have to cite it. But um, these are two ways we could work with research. We could quote it, we could summarize it, and then paraphrasing means it's trying to change every single word the author uses to make them your own. So I'm just trying to change words. I'm trying to change as many words as I can in the sentence to make it my own. Paraphrasing is a lot more work than quoting or summarizing because it takes more engagement because I'm trying to change the words that the author used. So for example, I want to work with a document. So I'm going to pull something up. Give me 1 second. So for example, if I'm on this document, it's from Boston.com. So here's the article. It says state trooper banned from Target after allegedly shoplifting over a dozen times. Um, and so the story says a Massachusetts police officer who allegedly stole from Target over a dozen times is ordered on Thursday to stay away from all Target locations, according to court documents. Zachary Kent, who was suspended without pay last year, allegedly repeatedly shoplifted at Target by skip scanning items, meaning that he would pay for some merchandise at self-checkout while passing others around the scanner. In a statement shared with Boston.com last year following Kent's suspension, a spokesman for the state police said the department does not tolerate theft or dishonesty and holds its members accountable to the highest professional standards. When these troubling allegations came to our attention, the department immediately relieved the accused trooper of duty, opened an internal affairs investigation, and suspended him without pay following his duty status hearing, the spokesperson said. Kent is suspected in 23 shoplifting cases, and in addition to 11 instances at a Target located at 70 Worcester Providence Turnpike in Millbury, court documents show, where he allegedly skip scanned $847 worth of merchandise. Kent also identified as a suspect of 3 shoplifting cases at a Target in Worcester located at 1529. On April 17, 2024, Kent allegedly brought 3 packs of golf balls to Worcester Target's self-checkout, scanning one of the packs and foregoing scanning the other two, according to a report from a Target Assist protection specialist. Kent allegedly stole a pack of golf balls the next day and another pack on June 6th. The total amount for stolen golf balls amounted to $204, according to the documents. So here's our story. So if I had to summarize this, I want to try to capture who, what, when, where, why. So I'm going to say that Zachariah Kent, who's a police officer in New England, was banned from Target stores after stealing $1,000 worth of merchandise. Right? I mean, I could get a little bit more detailed, but that's just me summarizing it. Right. I could also say he stole from 2 different stores, but the core of it is he was suspended from Target. And so that's me summarizing it. Now, if I had to paraphrase this article, because I summarized it, I just took maybe 8 paragraphs and just condensed them down into maybe 2 or 3 sentences. Now, if I paraphrase this, it's a little bit more challenging because what I need to do is I need to try to change as many words as I can. I'll try to do this one. So it says the total amount for the stolen golf balls amounted to $204, according to the documents. So if I'm going to paraphrase this, what I want to do is I want to try to change the words. So I would say the suspect shoplifted the okay, so if I had to paraphrase it, I would say um the entire amount for shoplifted golf equipment was nearly $200, as shown by the records. So what I try to do is I try to change as many words as I can. Now, sometimes I can't change a word, but I'm going to try to change as many words as I can. I'm not just moving around the sentence. I'm not saying, well, according to the documents, the total amount. That's not paraphrasing. That's just moving words around a sentence. Paraphrasing is trying to change as many words as you can. So whenever you're working with research, there are 3 things you could do. You could quote it, you could summarize it, you could paraphrase it. Now, when would you, and anytime you do this quote, summary, or paraphrase, you still have to cite it. You still have to cite it with in-text citations. You still have to have full text citations. So now, when would you quote something? I would choose to quote something when it's perfect. It's not that long. I want to avoid long quotes and short essays. And a short essay to me is anything below 8 to 10 pages. I don't want to have a bunch of long quotes in a short essay. And the reason why, it makes the writer look lazy. Anybody could just put big quotes in an essay to get to the page count or the word count. So if it's really long, I would quote it. And if it's perfectly said, it's very clear what it means, then I would choose to quote it in that situation. When would I summarize something? I would summarize something when it's really long. So then I would choose to just capture the main idea. And a lot of times, what an author writes, I might not need all of it. It might not be necessary. So I could just summarize it and I can get rid of some of the stuff that's not really necessary for what I need to say. And then when would I paraphrase something? I would paraphrase something that's complicated for the reader to understand. So I might be in a biology class and I have to write an essay and I want to show my teacher that I understand these formulas or these ideas. So I might paraphrase them to show the reader that I understand it and also help them understand what I'm writing. So these are the 3 choices of how to incorporate research. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about. That would be working with research. And there's 3 ways I could do this. 1, I could summarize it. I could evaluate it. I could synthesize it. Or I could well, synthesize, I could analyze it, evaluate it, or analyze it, or synthesize it. So summarizing, we already went over this. It's capturing the writer's words. and making them your own. And this can be tricky because whenever I'm summarizing something, I also want to stay objective. I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm just going to tell you what it says. I'm not like when I summarize that article about the police officer, I'm not saying this is wrong what this police officer did. He's an idiot. I'm not telling you about how I feel about it. I'm just telling you what it says. So whenever summarizing something, we want to stay as objective as possible. Now, when we evaluate, that's when we judge it. So if you've ever been evaluated at work, they might tell you what you did right, they might tell you what you did wrong. And when I'm evaluating my research, I might tell you what the writer is doing well, and I might attack the reader, I might attack the writer, or I might critique the writer and say, this is a great point, but they're missing this idea, or this isn't good at all, this is horrible information. So evaluating your research means judging your research. And then if I analyze my research, what this means, it means dissecting it. Words and ideas. It means deconstructing the content. So might look at a specific word that the author is using and focus on that. Or if I'm working with advertisements, I might look at a specific word in an advertisement and what does this mean? How does this relate to the whole? So whenever I'm analyzing something, I'm looking at the smaller parts of the language and deconstructing it. What is a writer trying to say when they're using this wording? And then lastly, if I synthesize my research, synthesize means blending several sources together. I might have a quote from one author, I might have a quote from another author, and I might mesh them together to make a more coherent point. So it's blending several sources together. I might have an author who agrees with another author, and I could use them to validate my point. I might have two authors who disagree, et cetera, et cetera. But when I'm blending several quotes in a paragraph, that is called synthesizing. And if you've ever worked with a keyboard or a synthesizer, that's what it does. It blends sounds together. So these are some strategies you have whenever you're working with research. And I'm going to show a video. It's kind of controversial. It's by George Carlin. There's some swearing in this. This is a college class for adults. I'm sure you've heard worse language before, but I'm using this video because it's very controversial. And I think in order to evaluate something, it helps to work with something that is controversial. Unfortunately, there's no closed captioning for this, but there should be for us. Now, I want to share my sound so we can hear this. And then I'm going to play this.
You got people like this around you. Country's full of them now. People walking around all day long, every minute of the day, worried about everything. Worried about the air, worried about the water, worried about the soil. Worried about insecticides, pesticides, food additives, carcinogens. Worried about radon gas, worried about asbestos. Worried about saving endangered species. Let me tell you about endangered species, all right? Saving endangered species is just one more arrogant attempt by humans to control nature. It's arrogant meddling. It's what got us in trouble in the first place. Doesn't anybody understand that? Interfering with nature. Over 90%, way over 90% of all the species that have ever lived on this planet, are gone. They're extinct. We didn't kill them all. They just disappeared. That's what nature does. They disappear these days at the rate of 25 a day. And I mean regardless of our behavior. Irrespective of how we act on this planet, 25 species that were here today will be gone tomorrow. Let them go gracefully. Leave nature alone. Haven't we done enough? We're so self-important. So self-important. Everybody's gonna save something now. Save the trees, save the bees, save the whales, save those snails. And the greatest arrogance of all, save the planet. What? Are these fucking people kidding me? Save the planet? We don't even know how to take care of ourselves yet. We haven't learned how to care for one another. We're gonna save the fucking planet? I'm getting tired of that shit. tired of that shit. Tired. I'm tired of fucking Earth Day. I'm tired of these self-righteous environmentalists, these white bourgeois liberals who think the only thing wrong with this country is there aren't enough bicycle paths. People trying to make the world safe for their Volvos. Besides, environmentalists don't give a shit about the planet. They don't care about the planet. Not in the abstract, they don't. Not in the abstract, they don't. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. They're worried that someday in the future they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interest doesn't impress me. Besides, there is nothing wrong with the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. Difference. Difference. The planet is fine. Compared to the people, the planet is doing great. It's been here 4.5 billion years. Did you ever think about the arithmetic? Planet has been here 4.5 billion years. We've been here, what, 100,000? Maybe 200,000? And we've only been engaged in heavy industry for a little over 200 years. 200 years versus 4.5 billion. And we have the conceit to think that somehow we're a threat? That somehow we're going to put in jeopardy this beautiful little blue-green ball that's just a-floating around the sun? The planet has been through a lot worse than us. Been through all kinds of things worse than us. Been through earthquakes, volcanoes, plate tectonics, continental drift, solar flares, sunspots, magnetic storms, the magnetic reversal of the poles, hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets and asteroids and meteors, worldwide floods, tidal waves, worldwide fires, erosion, cosmic rays, recurring ice ages, and we think some plastic bags and some aluminum cans are going to make a difference? The planet isn't going anywhere. We are. We're going away. Pack your shit, folks. We're going away. And we won't leave much of a trace either. Thank God for that. Maybe a little styrofoam. Maybe. Little styrofoam. Planet will be here and we'll be long gone. Just another failed mutation. Just another closed-end biological mistake. An evolutionary cul-de-sac. The planet will shake us off like a bad case of fleas. A surface nuisance. You want to know how the planet's doing? Ask those people at Pompeii who are frozen into position from volcanic ash how the planet's doing. Want to know if the planet's all right? Ask those people in Mexico City or Armenia or 100 other places buried under thousands of tons of earthquake rubble if they feel like a threat to the planet this week. How about those people in Kilauea, Hawaii who build their homes right next to an active volcano and then wonder why they have lava in the living room? The planet will be here for a long, long, long time after we're gone, and it will heal itself, it will cleanse itself, because that's what it does. It's a self-correcting system. The air and the water will recover, the earth will be renewed, and if it's true that plastic is not degradable, well, the planet will simply incorporate plastic into a new paradigm, the earth plus plastic. The earth doesn't share our prejudice towards plastic. Plastic came out of the earth. The earth probably sees plastic as just another one of its children. Could be the only reason the earth allowed us to be spawned from it in the first place. It wanted plastic for itself. Didn't know how to make it. Needed us. Could be the answer to our age-old philosophical question, why are we here? Plastic. Assholes. So, the plastic is here, our job is done, we can be phased out now, and I think that's really started already, don't you? I mean, to be fair, the planet probably sees us as a mild threat, something to be dealt with, and I'm sure the planet will defend itself in the manner of a large organism, like a beehive or an ant colony can muster a defense. I'm sure the planet will think of something. What would you do if you were the planet trying to defend against this pesky, troublesome species? Let's see, what might, viruses. Viruses might be good. They seem vulnerable to viruses. And viruses are tricky, always mutating and forming new strains whenever a vaccine is developed. Perhaps this first virus could be one that compromises the immune system of these creatures, perhaps a human immunodeficiency virus, making them vulnerable to all sorts of other diseases and infections that might come along. And maybe it could be spread sexually, making them a little reluctant to engage in the act of reproduction. Well, that's a poetic note. And it's a start. And I can dream, can I? See, I don't worry about the little things. Bees, trees, whales, snails. I think we're part of a greater wisdom than we will ever understand. A higher order. Call it what you want. Know what I call it? The big electron. The big electron. Whoa. 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 It doesn't punish. It doesn't reward. It doesn't judge at all. It just is. And so are we. For a little while. Thanks for being here with me for a little while tonight.
All right. So here's a video. So I'm going to go back to this other document I had open. Now, if I had to summarize what George Carlin is saying, what he's saying is that his main thesis is that we don't control the earth controls us. That's really his whole message, right? If he had a thesis, that would be it. And I just boiled it down to one sentence, but that's really what he's saying. We don't control the earth controls us. So that's a summary, right? No judgment. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. That's just what he's saying. Now, if I had to evaluate what George Carlin is saying, I agree with some things he says and I disagree with others. I agree that we're all going to die. It's sad to think about, but there's a lot of evidence to say we are going to die individually and probably as a collective whole. No species has ever lived forever, and the chance of us going extinct, they're pretty high considering the history of the planet. So I would agree with that. Sad to think about, but honestly, there's a lot of evidence for that. I disagree with them because I think we have an impact on the planet and we have the ability to reverse our impact. And I think a prime example of that would be COVID. When COVID happened, people went inside, and when they went inside, the ocean was cleaner than it had been in decades. This smog in LA went away. The air was cleaner. So we can reverse nature. We have that ability. Now, I think another good example would be Rachel Carson. She wrote a book called Silent Spring, and what it was doing is she wanted to ban DDTs, these pesticides that got in the soil and the air and the water. And so when she wrote this book, we banned them. And when we banned these pesticides, the earth started to heal, the water started to heal, the air started to heal. So we had a role in that. So I think that humans do have a role in nature and they have the ability to reverse nature. That's what I would disagree with. But most importantly, that is called evaluating. Now, if I had to analyze what he says, what I'm doing is I'm cutting out a smaller part of what he's saying. For example, he has this anecdotal evidence in the middle where he says, look at those people in Hawaii, look at those people in Pompeii, look at those people in Armenia, if they feel like they're a threat to the planet. And if I had to dissect exactly what he's trying to say, it comes back to his core point that humans are ignorant because they like to build their houses in the worst possible places because they think they're bigger than nature, but nature is bigger than them. That's really what he's saying, right? And I'd have to show another video to synthesize this, but I could take another video by somebody who agrees with climate change or somebody else who disagrees with climate change, and I could run those together and I could make an argument, right? I could blend those two sources together. So when you're working with research, you have the choice to summarize it, evaluate it, analyze it, synthesize it. And this is all important because this is called another word for elaboration. And if you watch my videos on academic formatting, when we get into a body paragraph, I said that we need a topic sentence and a body paragraph. We need a topic sentence. I'm not going to go over this, what they are. We need support, we need research. We need to elaborate. We need a summary transition. That's what I was talking about. A summary transition. Now, I probably wasn't clear in that video earlier about what elaboration means, but it simply means this. I could summarize, I could evaluate, I could analyze, or I could synthesize. I could do any of those things with my research. So I could summarize my research, I could evaluate it, analyze it, synthesize it. And that's what it means. And I just realized, like, that's spelled incorrect. But this is what you could do. So this is an important lesson because it's a lot of what our paper is doing. So for example, in the second paragraph, we're summarizing the ads. And then in the third and fourth paragraphs, what we're doing is we're really evaluating and analyzing the ads that we're using for this paper. So it's a big part of our essay coming up. So that's why I wanted to spend time on this. Thank you for listening.